Katie Morgan sat in the back corner of the classroom, her datapad resting on the desk in front of her. Around her, 47 students filled the tiered seating, but none of them sat close to her. The nearest student was 3 seats away, a large creature with gray scales and yellow eyes. He had looked at her once on the first day, sniffed the air, and moved further away. That was 3 months ago. The classroom was huge, built to accommodate the different sizes of species from across the galaxy. Some students were barely 4 feet tall. Others had to duck to fit through the doorways. Katie was average height for a human, 5'6" with brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore plain gray clothing, the standard uniform for exchange students. Nothing about her stood out. Nothing made anyone look twice. That was exactly how she wanted it. At the front of the room, Instructor Vexithara prowled back and forth on the raised platform. She was Canthros, one of the apex predator species in the galaxy, 8 feet tall, covered in midnight blue fur with silver stripes, muscles visible even through her instructor's uniform. Her claws clicked against the metal floor as she walked. Her golden eyes swept across the students, and several of them sat up straighter when her gaze passed over them. "Combat is not about fairness," Vexithara said, her voice deep and commanding. "It is about survival. It is about dominance. The strong live. The weak die. This is the natural order." Katie typed notes on her datapad. Her face showed nothing. "In your field training next week," the instructor continued, "you will face real scenarios. Holographic opponents that fight back. That hurt you. Some of you will fail. Some of you will learn what you are truly made of." A student in the 3rd row raised a clawed hand. It was Zira, a young Canthros female. She was smaller than the others of her species, her fur more gray than blue. "Instructor, what if the scenario requires us to harm civilians?" "The protocols say—" "Protocols," Vexithara interrupted, her tone sharp, "are written by politicians who have never seen real combat. In the field, you make decisions in seconds. Hesitation kills you. Hesitation kills your pack." She moved closer to Zira's desk. "Tell me, cadet, if your life or a stranger's life is at stake, who do you choose?" Zira's ears flattened against her head. "The protocols say to evaluate—" "Wrong answer." Vexithara's voice cracked like a whip. "You choose yourself, always, because a dead soldier protects no one." Katie's fingers paused over her datapad. She looked up, watching the scene. Several students were watching Zira now, their body language shifting. Among predator species, signs of weakness drew attention. The wrong kind of attention. Zira's voice was quieter now. "I understand, Instructor. Do you?" Vexithara circled Zira's desk like a hunter circling prey. "Or will you freeze in the field training? Will you hesitate and prove that you do not belong here?" "I will not hesitate," Zira said, but her voice shook. Vexithara made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We will see." She walked back to the front of the room. "Class dismissed. Review chapters 8 through 12. The weak ones among you should study extra hours. You will need them." The students stood, gathering their materials. The larger males moved in a group, their voices loud as they talked about the upcoming field training. Katie heard one of them, a Canthros named Rax, speaking to his friends. "Did you see Zira shaking? She will probably cry during the simulation." Another male laughed. "Maybe we will be assigned to her group. We could teach her what real combat looks like." They walked past Zira's desk. She kept her head down, organizing her datapad and notes very slowly, waiting for them to leave. Katie watched this too. She saw Zira's hands trembling slightly. The classroom emptied quickly. Predator species did not linger in learning spaces. They had training rooms, recreation areas, places to burn energy and establish their social ranks. Katie was always the last to leave. She took her time, checking her notes, organizing files on her datapad. Today, Zira was also slow to leave. Katie stood, slinging her small pack over her shoulder. She walked down the steps between the desk rows. As she passed Zira's desk, she paused. The young Canthros looked up, surprised. They had never spoken directly. "Chapter 9 has a good section on threat assessment," Katie said quietly. "Page 43. It might help." Zira blinked. Thank you." Katie nodded once and continued walking. Behind her, she heard Zira gathering her things more quickly, her movements a little less uncertain. In the hallway outside, groups of students moved in clusters. Canthros with Canthros, Vrax with Vrax. The different species mostly stayed separated, though they were all predators, all studying combat and tactics. Katie walked alone as always. She had learned in her first week that trying to join a group only made them uncomfortable. They did not know what to do with a human. Prey species did not usually take combat courses. The few who tried typically dropped out within days. Katie had stayed for 3 months. She made her way through the station's corridors to the exchange student quarters. Her room was small, efficient, clean. A bed, a desk, a bathroom. She did not need more. She sat at the desk and opened her personal computer, the one linked to Earth networks, not the station's system. She opened a file labeled Observations. The file was long, detailed, organized by date. Katie added today's notes. She documented Vexthera's teaching methods, the instructor's emphasis on dominance over strategy, her public humiliation of students who showed caution or mercy. Katie noted which students were becoming more aggressive, which ones were being isolated by the group. Zira's name appeared frequently in recent entries. Katie sat back in her chair, thinking. She had been sent here as an exchange student, yes, but she was also an observer. The human military wanted to know how other species trained their soldiers. They wanted to understand galactic combat doctrine. Katie's orders were clear: watch, learn, do not interfere. But those orders were written by people who assumed the training would be professional, ethical, safe. What Katie was watching was none of those things. She had taught combat to human Marines for 8 years before accepting this assignment. She knew what good training looked like. She knew the difference between pushing students to excel and breaking them down for entertainment. She knew when an instructor was teaching soldiers versus creating bullies. Vexthera was creating bullies. Katie closed the file and stood. She walked to her small window, looking out at the stars beyond the station. She had 6 more weeks before her exchange period ended. 6 weeks of watching and documenting, unless something forced her to act sooner. She thought about Zira's trembling hands, about the male students circling like sharks who smelled blood, about an instructor who encouraged cruelty and called it strength. Katie had been trained to be patient, to observe, to wait for the right moment. She was very good at waiting, but she was also very good at knowing when waiting was no longer an option. Tomorrow there would be another class. More lessons about dominance and survival. More students learning that might made right, that mercy was weakness. Katie would be there in the back row, taking notes, and she would keep watching until she saw something that crossed the line from poor teaching into actual danger. She had a feeling that moment was coming soon. The next week moved slowly, each day bringing more tension to the classroom. Katie watched as Vexthera's lessons became harsher, her comments more cutting. The field training exercise was scheduled for the end of the week, and the instructor seemed determined to separate the students into 2 groups, the strong and the weak. Zira was clearly marked as weak. It started with small things. Vexthera would ask Zira questions during lectures, then interrupt her answers before she finished speaking. She assigned Zira extra work, then criticized her for taking too long to complete it. During physical demonstrations, she would call Zira to the front of the room and point out every small flaw in her stance, her grip, her movement. The other students noticed. Among predator species, the pack always noticed when one member was being singled out. Rax and his 2 friends, Keth and Dorn, began their own campaign. They would trip Zira in the hallways, knock her datapad off her desk, make comments just loud enough for her to hear. Nothing that would bring official complaints, but everything designed to make her feel hunted. Katie saw all of it. She continued to sit in her back corner, typing notes, her expression neutral. But twice more, she walked past Zira's desk after class and mentioned a useful reference, a helpful chapter, a training technique that might work for smaller fighters. Zira began to nod to Katie when they passed in the corridors. Small acknowledgement, nothing more, but it was something. On the 4th day of the week, Katie noticed that Zira was no longer sitting with the other Canthros students. She had moved to the side of the classroom in a seat by herself, isolated from the pack. In Canthros culture, that was a dangerous position. That afternoon, Katie was in the station's database archive, researching for her reports when Zira entered. The archive was quiet, rarely used by students who preferred to learn through action rather than reading. Zira did not see Katie in the back corner between the shelves. The young Canthros was downloading training files to her datapad. her movements quick and nervous. Katie could see her ears constantly swiveling, listening for threats even in an empty room. That was not the behavior of a confident predator. That was the behavior of prey. Vexithera was turning one of her own students into prey. Katie made a note in her personal file that evening. The situation was deteriorating faster than she had expected. The field training exercise began on Friday morning. The entire class reported to Training Room 7, the largest combat simulation facility on the station. The room was massive, capable of generating holographic environments and opponents that looked and felt completely real. The holograms could not cause permanent injury, but they could hurt. They could bruise, cut, cause pain. That was the point. Real training for real combat. Vexithera stood on the observation deck above the training floor, looking down at her students. "You will enter in groups of 3, she announced. "You will face scenarios designed for your skill level, or possibly above your skill level. We will see who rises and who falls." She began reading assignments. 3 students at a time would enter the simulation. The rest would watch from the observation deck. Katie was assigned to the last group, which meant she would spend most of the day watching. The first groups performed adequately. The simulations involved hostage scenarios, ambush situations, close quarters combat. Some students did well. Others struggled but completed their objectives. Vexithera provided commentary on each performance, her tone approving for the aggressive students, disappointed for those who showed too much caution. Then Zira's name was called. She was assigned with 2 other Canthros females, neither of whom had been friendly to her lately. Katie leaned forward slightly in her seat, watching more carefully. The 3 students entered the training floor. The simulation began. The holographic environment formed around them. A city street with smoke and debris. Hostile targets appeared, armed and dangerous. The training began. Zira's teammates moved aggressively, taking point positions, engaging targets with practiced efficiency. Zira covered their backs, her weapon up and ready, her movements careful. She was doing exactly what she should do, supporting her team, watching for threats, staying alert. "Cadet Zira," Vexithera's voice boomed over the speakers. "Why are you hiding behind your teammates? Are you afraid?" Several students on the observation deck laughed. Zira hesitated for a moment, then moved forward to a more exposed position. A holographic enemy appeared in a window above her. She saw it, aimed, fired. "Hit the target." "Adequate," Vexithera said, making it sound like an insult. "Continue." The simulation intensified. More enemies, more complex situations. Zira's teammates were good, working together smoothly. Zira kept pace, following protocols, making smart tactical decisions. They completed the scenario with acceptable marks. But when they exited the training floor, Vexithera was not finished. "Cadet Zira," the instructor called out. "You passed, barely, but I noticed something. In the 3rd scenario, when a civilian hologram ran across your path, you hesitated for 2 full seconds. In real combat, that hesitation could kill your entire team." "The civilian was in the crossfire," Zira said, her voice quiet. Protocol says to complete the mission," Vexithera interrupted. "A soldier who cannot make hard choices is a liability. Perhaps you need additional training. Individual training." She turned to look at the remaining students. "Rax, Keth, Dorn, you 3 will run an additional scenario with Cadet Zira. A special exercise." Katie's hand tightened on her datapad. The 4 students entered the training floor. The simulation began differently this time. The environment was darker, closer quarters. An urban warfare scenario with tight corridors and limited visibility. "This is a pack cohesion exercise," Vexithera announced. "Cadet Zira, your 3 teammates are your pack. You must follow their lead. Trust them completely. Begin." Katie knew immediately that something was wrong. The 3 males moved into formation, but they were not treating Zira like a teammate. They were circling her. Their body language was all wrong for a cooperative exercise. In the simulation, enemies appeared. Rax called out commands directing the group, but his direction sent Zira into exposed positions, dangerous angles. When she questioned an order, he snarled at her to follow pack hierarchy. The exercise continued. The 3 males were not fighting with Zira. They were testing her, pushing her, forcing her into worse and worse situations. On the observation deck, students watched with interest. This was entertainment now, not training. Then the simulation ended. But the 4 students remained on the training floor. Vexithara spoke over the intercom. Adequate performance. Rax, your pack coordination was strong. Cadet Zira, you resisted your pack leader's commands. That is unacceptable. You four will remain for additional exercises. Mandatory correction training. Katie stood up from her seat. Around her, other students were talking among themselves, losing interest now that the exciting part was over. They began to leave the observation deck, heading for their next classes or free periods. "Excuse me," Katie said quietly, moving past the other students toward the stairs. Most ignored her. A few glanced at her with mild confusion. The human was actually speaking. Katie reached the observation deck control panel. Through the window, she could see the 4 students on the training floor below. Vexithara had activated something on her control board. Katie recognized it from her research on the facility. Combat stimulation system. Designed for advanced training, it released chemicals into the air that heightened predator instincts, made the training more intense and realistic. It was supposed to be used with safety protocols. With medical supervision, with consent forms, Vexithara was using it as punishment. On the training floor, the 3 males were beginning to move differently. Their postures changed, becoming more aggressive. Their eyes dilated. Zira backed away from them, her ears flat against her head, recognizing danger. Katie looked at the observation deck door. It was locked from the inside. Vexithara had sealed the room. On the instructor's control panel, Katie could see the simulation controls, the stimulation system, the emergency overrides, and she could see that Vexithara was smiling. Katie pulled her datapad from her pack and accessed the station's network. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, entering codes she had memorized weeks ago, security override codes from her military credentials, codes that should not work on a civilian education station. But Station Kepler was built with military contracts. And Katie knew exactly which systems shared protocols with Earth military networks. The door lock on the training floor clicked open. Vexithara's head snapped toward Katie. "What are you doing?" Katie did not answer. She was already moving down the stairs toward the training floor entrance. Katie pushed through the training floor door and stepped inside. The air smelled different, sharp and chemical. The combat stimulation system was running at high levels, designed to push predator species into hunting mode. For the 3 males, it was like gasoline on fire. For Zira, backed against the far wall, it was triggering pure fear responses. The 3 males had not attacked yet, but they were seconds away from it. Their bodies were tense, muscles coiled. Rax was in front, with Keth and Dorn spreading to the sides. Classic pack hunting formation. Zira saw Katie enter. Her eyes went wide. "No, stay back. Go to the door," Katie said calmly, not taking her eyes off the 3 males. "Walk slowly. Keep your hands visible, go." Zira did not argue. She moved along the wall, giving the males a wide space, heading toward the exit. Rax's head turned to track her movement, but Katie stepped forward, putting herself between them. "She stays," Rax growled. His voice was thick, affected by the stimulation drugs. The instructor said correction training. "The training is over," Katie said. Her voice was steady, quiet, the same tone she had used 1,000 times in Marine training facilities, addressing soldiers who were about to make a bad decision. "You are going to step back now. All 3 of you." Keth laughed, the sound harsh. "The prey thinks she can give orders." "I am giving you information," Katie said. "Not orders. The information is this. If you attack either of us, you will be hurt badly. You will wake up in the medical center and you will be expelled from this program." She paused. "Or you can step back, let the drugs clear your system, and walk out of here with your future intact." From the observation deck above, Vexithara's voice crackled over the speakers. "Cadet Morgan, remove yourself from the training floor immediately." "This is not your concern." Katie ignored her completely. She kept her focus on the 3 males. Rax was the leader, the most dangerous. If he decided to back down, the others would follow. If he decided to attack, they would all come at once. Behind Katie, Zira reached the door and slipped through it. Safe. One problem solved. Rax took a step closer to Katie. "You should have left with her, human." "Now you are the target, I know," Katie said. "Question is, do you know what that means?" Rax lunged, Katie moved. Not away, but to the side, letting his momentum carry him past her. As he went by, she struck the nerve cluster behind his knee with a precise kick. His leg buckled. She followed with an elbow to his shoulder blade, hitting the exact spot where Canthros musculature connected. Rax went down hard, crashing face first into the training floor. Keth and Dorn rushed her from both sides. Katie ducked under Keth's clawed swipe, grabbed his extended arm, and used his own force to throw him into Dorn. They collided, tangled, went down together. She did not wait for them to recover. 2 quick strikes to pressure points and they were stunned, gasping, trying to remember how to breathe properly. It took 8 seconds total. Rax was pushing himself up, shaking his head. Katie stepped back, giving him space. "Stay down," she said. "You are drugged. You are not thinking clearly." "I do not want to hurt you more," Rax roared and charged again. This time Katie could not avoid the engagement. He was too fast, too large, too committed. They collided and his weight drove her backward. His claws came up, aiming for her throat. Katie trapped his arm, twisted her body, and threw him using his own momentum. It was basic judo, adapted for opponents with different body structure. Rax flipped over her hip and slammed into the ground. Before he could rise, Katie had his arm locked in a joint manipulation hold that made any movement excruciating. "Do you feel that pain?" Katie asked, her voice still calm. "That is your body telling you that your arm is about to break. Your stimulated brain is telling you to keep fighting. Which one should you listen to?" From the observation deck, Vexithera was screaming now. "Security? I want security in training room 7 immediately." Katie looked up at the observation window. "Yes," she called out. "Please send security. And medical. And station administration. I think everyone should see what has been happening in your classes, Instructor." Vexithera's expression changed. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Katie released Rax's arm and stepped back. He lay on the floor breathing hard, the combat drugs beginning to fade. Clarity was returning to his eyes, and with it, the realization of what he had just done. Keth and Dorn were sitting up now, holding their chests where Katie had struck them. They looked confused, frightened, young again instead of dangerous. The door to the training floor opened. Station security entered, 3 officers in dark blue uniforms. The lead officer was a luminar, a crystalline species that glowed faintly with internal light. His name was Officer Chen, and Katie had met him once during her station orientation. "What is happening here?" Chen asked, his voice carrying harmonics like chimes. "I can explain." Vexthera started from the observation deck. "I will explain," Katie interrupted. She gestured to the 3 male students on the floor. These students were subjected to combat stimulation drugs without proper protocols, without medical supervision, without consent. They attacked another student, Cadet Zira. When I intervened to stop the attack, they attacked me. Chen looked at the 3 males. Rax was staring at his hands, trembling. I attacked a classmate," he said quietly. "I was going to—" "Oh, ancestors, what did I do?" "You were drugged," Katie said firmly. "You are not responsible for actions taken under illegal combat stimulants. But someone is responsible for using those stimulants on students." All eyes turned to the observation deck. Vexithera stood there, her posture stiff. "It was training," she said. "Authorized training procedures." Officer Chen tapped a device on his wrist. "I am pulling the facility logs now." He was silent for a moment, reading data. His glow dimmed slightly, the luminar equivalent of a frown. "Instructor Vexthera, the combat stimulation system requires authorization from 3 separate supervisors for use. I see no such authorization. I see only your personal access code used 17 times in the past 2 months." Vexithera said nothing. Chen continued reading. "I also see reports that have been filed and deleted. Complaints from students. Incident reports that were never forwarded to administration." He looked up at the observation deck. "Instructor, you will come with me. Now." "This is ridiculous," Vexthera snarled. "I am training warriors, not soft politicians. These students need to learn about real combat, real hierarchy." "You are training nothing anymore," Chen said, his voice hard. "You are suspended pending investigation. If you resist, you will be arrested." 2 more security officers appeared in the observation deck doorway. Vexithera looked at them, then at Katie on the training floor below. Her golden eyes were filled with rage. "This is your fault, human," she said. "You know nothing about strength, about survival. Your species only exists because you hid from real predators." Katie met her gaze. "My species exists because we were the real predators. We just hunted differently than you." Security escorted Vexithera from the observation deck. Katie turned to the 3 male students on the training floor. They were standing now, looking lost. "You 3 need medical evaluation," Katie said. "Combat stimulants have side effects. Officer Chen, they should go to medical immediately." "Agreed," Chen said. He spoke into his communication device requesting medical personnel. Then he turned to Katie. "You will need to make a full statement, and I will need access to any documentation you have been keeping." "I expected that," Katie said. "I have detailed records of everything I have observed over the past 3 months. I will send them to your office." Chen's glow brightened slightly, perhaps approval. "You have been watching this entire time?" "I was sent here to observe and learn," Katie said. "I did both." Rax approached Katie carefully, his body language submissive. "I attacked you," he said. "I'm sorry. That is not. I would never—" "I know," Katie said. "You are not in control. But you need to understand something. What happened today was not training. Real training teaches you to control your instincts, not surrender to them. Real strength is knowing when not to fight." Keth and Dorn joined Rax, the 3 of them standing together. They looked at Katie with expressions she had never seen from them before. Not contempt or amusement, respect. "You defeated all 3 of us," Dorn said, easily, "while we were enhanced. How?" "Because I was trained properly," Katie said. "By instructors who taught me that the brain is more dangerous than claws. That strategy beats strength. That protecting your pack means all of your pack, not just the strong ones." Medical personnel arrived, guiding the 3 males toward the medical center for evaluation. Officer Chen remained with Katie, taking her initial statement. Through the door, Katie could see other students gathering in the hallway, hearing rumors about what had happened. Zira appeared in the doorway, hesitant. Katie nodded to her and she entered carefully. "Thank you," Zira said quietly. "You saved me." "You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did," Katie said simply. "You are a student trying to learn. No one should be punished for that." Officer Chen finished his notes. "I will need those records by tomorrow, Cadet Morgan. All of them." "You will have them tonight," Katie promised. As Chen left, more students began to enter the training room. Not all of them, but many. They stood in a loose semicircle, watching Katie with new eyes. The small human in the back row who never spoke was... The investigation moved quickly. Station administration did not appreciate finding out that one of their instructors had been violating safety protocols and abusing students for months. Officer Chen presented Katie's detailed records, which included dates, times, specific incidents, and even audio recordings from her datapad that she had been making during classes. Vexithera was suspended immediately, confined to quarters while the investigation continued. The combat training program was put on temporary hold. Students were interviewed one by one. Many of them, released from fear of their instructor's retaliation, began to tell their own stories. A VRAC student named Krek reported that he had seen Vexithera strike a smaller student during a simulation, claiming it was part of the training. A Telmarian female named Sala described being told she was too weak for the program and should quit, despite having the highest test scores in her group. More reports came in. Patterns emerged. It became clear that this had been going on since Vexithera first started teaching at the station 2 years ago. Katie was called to give testimony before the station administrative board. She sat in a formal conference room, facing 5 administrators from different species. They asked her questions for 3 hours. She answered each one clearly, factually, without emotion. "Why did you wait so long to report this?" asked Administrator Trell, a stern-looking Canthros male who seemed personally offended by Vexthara's behavior. "I needed to be certain," Katie said. "One incident could be explained as harsh but acceptable training. A pattern of incidents is abuse. I documented the pattern before I made accusations." "You could have reported your concerns earlier," another administrator pointed out. "We could have investigated before students were endangered." "Perhaps," Katie agreed. "But I also knew that as an outsider, a human, a prey species in a combat program, my word alone might not be believed. I needed evidence, so I gathered evidence." The administrators could not argue with that. The hearing concluded. Katie was thanked for her diligence and told to return to her normal schedule. Classes would resume in 3 days with a temporary instructor. As Katie left the administrative building, she found a group of students waiting outside. 15 of them from different species. Rax, Keth, and Dorn were there. So was Zira. Others she recognized from the class, including Krek, the large Vrax male who had been one of the worst bullies. They stood in formation, a deliberate arrangement. When Katie appeared, they all made gestures of respect according to their various species customs. Katie stopped, surprised. "What is this?" Krek stepped forward. He was massive, nearly 9 feet tall, covered in thick-scaled hide. "We wanted to apologize," he said, his deep voice rumbling. "We followed a bad leader. We learned bad lessons. Some of us," he glanced at the others. "Some of us hurt other students because we thought that was what warriors did." "Warriors protect," Katie said quietly. "Bullies hurt. There is a difference. We know that now," Krek said. "You showed us." Zira moved to stand beside Krek. "We also wanted to ask you something. The station is bringing in a new instructor, but we would like you to teach us. If you are willing," Katie shook her head. "I am not an instructor here. I am an exchange student. I am not qualified to teach galactic combat courses." "You defeated 3 combat-enhanced Canthros males without breaking a sweat," Rax said. "You are qualified." "That was not teaching," Katie said. "That was defending." "Then teach us to defend the way you do," Zira said. "Teach us what humans know about real combat. About strategy and thinking instead of just claws and strength." Katie looked at the group of students. They were serious, earnest. They wanted to learn, not from pride or from fear, but because they had seen something different and recognized it was better than what they had known. "I will think about it," Katie said finally, "but I make no promises." They accepted that. The group dispersed, but Katie noticed they stayed together, talking among themselves. Former bullies and former victims standing in the same space without hostility. It was a start. That evening, Katie received a message on her secure communication channel. It was from her commanding officer back on Earth, General Linda Hayes. "We have been informed of the situation on Station Kepler," the message read. "Your reports and the subsequent investigation have made waves. Good work. However, we need to discuss your next steps. Please respond when convenient." Katie recorded her response, summarizing the situation and her role in it. She sent it off and waited. The response came back within an hour. Military channels were faster than civilian ones. General Hayes appeared on the screen. Her gray hair pulled back, her expression neutral, but her eyes sharp. "Morgan, seems you cannot go anywhere without causing trouble." "I did not cause it, ma'am," Katie said. "I just documented it." "And then physically intervened when students were in danger," Hayes added. "Which was not part of your mission parameters." "No, ma'am. But allowing students to be harmed while I watched was not acceptable." Hayes was quiet for a moment. "No, it was not. You made the right call." She leaned forward. "Now here's the situation. The Galactic Institute has formally requested that you remain on station as an interim instructor until they find a permanent replacement for Vexthara. They specifically requested you. Apparently you have impressed some important people." Katie felt surprise show on her face. "Ma'am, I am not sure that is appropriate. I am still learning their systems, their protocols. You just took down 3 enhanced predators and exposed a corrupt instructor." Hayes interrupted. "I think you understand combat training well enough. The question is, do you want the position?" Katie thought about the students waiting outside the administrative building. About Zira, trying to learn despite being bullied. About Rax, Keth, and Dorn, recognizing they had been led wrong and wanting to do better. About all the students who had suffered under bad teaching and were now looking for something different. How long would the assignment be? Katie asked. 3 months initially, Hayes said, with possibility of extension. Your exchange program would be modified to include teaching duties. You would receive temporary instructor status and all appropriate access. And my regular reports. Continue as planned. But add a section on teaching methodologies and student response. Command is very interested in how galactic species respond to human training techniques. Katie nodded slowly. I will accept the position, ma'am. On one condition. Hayes raised an eyebrow. You're making conditions now? Yes, ma'am. I need full authority to teach using human methods. No interference from station administration unless there are legitimate safety concerns. If they want a human instructor, they get human instruction, not what they think human instruction should look like. Hayes smiled slightly. That is already in the contract they sent us. They are specifically asking for human methods. Seems our way of doing things has attracted attention. She paused. Make us proud, Morgan. Show them what real training looks like. Yes, ma'am. The transmission ended. Katie sat back in her chair thinking. She had come to Station Kepler to observe and learn. Now she was going to teach. It was not what she expected, but as her old instructor used to say, adapt to the situation or fail. She opened her files and began making notes. Lesson plans, training schedules, philosophy and methodology. If she was going to do this, she would do it properly. The next morning, Katie arrived at the training facility early. The students who had waited for her yesterday were already there, along with a dozen others. Word had spread. They wanted to see what the human would teach them. Katie stood before them, no longer sitting in the back row. No longer the quiet observer. She looked at each student, making eye contact, learning faces and names. My name is Katie Morgan, she said. I was a Marine Corps instructor for 8 years before coming to this station. I am going to teach you combat. But first, I am going to teach you what combat really means. She activated a holographic display behind her. Images appeared. Humans in combat throughout history, not just modern soldiers, but ancient ones. Warriors from different eras, different cultures. Every species here is a predator, Katie said. You have claws, fangs, strength, speed. You evolved to hunt. Humans evolved differently. We were prey animals. We were hunted by everything, big cats, pack hunters, bears, snakes. We were slow, weak, soft-skinned. By every measure, we should have died out. The students watched, listening carefully. But we did not die, Katie continued. We thrived. We spread across our entire planet. We conquered every environment. We reached the stars. Do you know how? She changed the display. Now it showed human tools, weapons, technology. We used our brains, Katie said. We made the world adapt to us instead of adapting to it. We turned every weakness into strength. We could not run fast, so we ran long. We chased prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. We could not fight with claws, so we made weapons. We could not survive cold, so we made fire and clothing. We could not defeat predators alone, so we worked in groups, coordinated, planned, ambushed. She looked at Krek. You are stronger than me, faster, better natural weapons. In a straight fight, pure physical contest, you would win. Krek nodded, unsure where this was going. But I would never give you a straight fight, Katie said. That is the lesson. Real combat is not about being the strongest. It is about being the... 3 months passed quickly. Katie's teaching methods were unlike anything the students had experienced before. She taught strategy over strength, thinking over instinct, teamwork over dominance. The students struggled at first, especially the ones who had excelled under Vexithara's aggressive system. But gradually they began to understand. Katie divided training into 3 parts: mental, physical, and ethical. Mental training focused on tactical thinking. She taught them to analyze situations before acting, to identify multiple solutions to every problem, to plan 3 steps ahead. She used human military history as examples. The Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off thousands. The Battle of Agincourt, where English longbowmen defeated French cavalry. Vietnam, where a technologically inferior force defeated a superpower through strategy and determination. Numbers are not destiny, Katie told them. Equipment is not destiny. The winner is whoever adapts fastest and thinks clearest. Physical training changed too. Katie still pushed them hard, but differently. She taught them to fight like humans. Use leverage instead of strength. Target weak points instead of matching power against power. Move efficiently instead of impressively. Stay balanced. Stay mobile. Never commit fully unless you are certain. Rax complained one day during grappling practice. This feels like cheating. Like we are fighting dirty. There is no dirty in real combat, Katie said. There is only alive and dead. Your opponent will not care if you fight fair. They will care about winning. So will you when your life depends on it. But the most important part was ethical training.
Katie spent hours discussing when to fight and when not to.
How to identify real threats versus perceived ones. How to protect civilians. How to make decisions under pressure without losing yourself. A warrior's job is to protect, she said repeatedly, not to conquer, not to dominate. To protect. If you are not protecting someone or something, you need to ask yourself why you are fighting. Zira excelled under this teaching. Without the pressure of dominance culture, she bloomed. Her tactical mind was sharp, her instincts sound. She began helping other students, tutoring them in the concepts Katie taught. She and Rax formed an unlikely partnership, studying together, practicing together, The male who had once bullied her now respected her. Krek underwent the biggest transformation. He realized that his size and strength had made him lazy. He had relied on intimidation instead of skill. Under Katie's training, he learned technique. He became formidable not just because he was large, but because he knew how to use his advantages properly. The group of 15 students who had first approached Katie became known informally as Morgan's Pack. They trained extra hours, studied human military tactics, and began helping other students. The name was meant as a joke at first, but it stuck. They wore it with pride. Word spread beyond Station Kepler. Other stations heard about the human instructor who taught predator species to fight like prey. Some mocked it. Others were curious. A few requested demonstrations. Katie received a message from the Galactic Military Academy on Station Arcturus. They wanted to observe her teaching methods. She agreed, and a delegation of senior military instructors from 6 different species arrived to watch her classes. They observed for a week. They saw Katie's students working together across species lines. They watched tactical exercises where smaller students defeated larger ones through planning. They saw ethical debates about combat situations. They took extensive notes. At the end of the week, the lead observer, a decorated Virax general named Corthen, spoke with Katie privately. "Your methods are unusual," he said. "They go against everything we have taught for generations." "I know," Katie said. "Is that a problem?" Corthen showed his teeth, the Virax version of a smile. "It is revolutionary. I have commanded soldiers for 40 years. I have seen thousands of warriors. Your students think differently. Fight differently. They are not better than ours yet, but they will be. In time, they will be much better." "Why?" Katie asked, curious about his assessment. "Because they do not fight like warriors," Corthen said. "They fight like soldiers. There is a difference. Warriors care about honor, glory, dominance. Soldiers care about winning and going home. Your students are learning to be soldiers." 2 weeks later, Katie received another message from General Hayes. The Galactic Military Academy wants to incorporate human training methodology into their curriculum, Hayes said on the video call. They are requesting that Earth provide military advisors, a permanent exchange program, teaching our methods to their forces. This could change galactic military doctrine for the next century. Katie felt the weight of that. That is larger than what we planned. It is, Hayes agreed. But it started with you. You showed them something new. Something better. Command wants to know if you want to continue, extend your assignment, help build this program. Katie thought about her students, about Zira leading tactical discussions, about Rax helping younger students with grappling techniques, about Krek tutoring a Telmarian student in strategy, about all of them working together, learning together, becoming better together. I have 3 more weeks on my current assignment, Katie said. After that, I need to come home for a while, see my family, file my reports properly. But after that, yes, I will return. This is important work. Hayes nodded. Good, you have earned leave time. Take 4 weeks. Then we will talk about the next phase. The message ended. Katie sat quietly thinking about the past 6 months. She had come to Station Kepler expecting to observe for a few months and go home. Instead, she had exposed corruption, prevented harm, and started teaching. She had changed lives. Maybe she had changed more than that. Her last week at the station was busy. She prepared lesson plans for the next instructor, documented her methods, and made sure her students would continue their training. The station had hired a new permanent instructor, a luminar named Crystalvec who had military experience and an excellent reputation. Katie spent 3 days briefing her, sharing everything she had learned. On Katie's final day, the students organized a farewell gathering. All 47 of them came, even the ones who had initially fled from the confrontation with Vexthara. They presented her with gifts from their homeworlds, tokens of respect, symbols of gratitude. Zira stepped forward, holding something wrapped in cloth. This is from all of us, she said. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a small sculpture, beautifully crafted, showing a human figure surrounded by different species all standing together. You taught us that pack is not about species or strength, Zira said. Pack is about who stands with you, who protects you, who you choose to protect. You chose to protect me when no one else would. You chose to protect all of us from bad teaching and bad leaders. We want you to remember us. Remember that you changed us. Katie took the sculpture, her throat tight. I will remember. All of you. Keep training. Keep learning. Keep protecting each other. Rack spoke next. We have decided to continue meeting. Training together. We are calling ourselves Morgan's Pack officially now. The station has approved it as a student organization. We will keep your methods alive. Katie smiled. Make them better. That is what learning is. Take what I taught you and improve it. Adapt it. Make it yours. The gathering lasted for hours. Students shared stories, talked about their progress, and made plans for the future. Katie answered questions, gave advice, and tried to prepare them for continuing without her. As the evening ended and students began to leave, Craig approached Katie one last time. I was a bully, he said quietly. I hurt smaller students because I thought that was what strong warriors did. You showed me that real strength is protecting the weak, not preying on them. I will never forget that lesson. Then teach it to others, Katie said. That is how change happens. One person learns, then teaches another and another. Eventually, everyone knows. Katie left Station Kepler the next morning. As her transport pulled away from the docking port, she looked back at the station through the window. Somewhere inside, 47 students were training, learning, becoming better warriors and better people. She had come to observe. She had ended up teaching, and in teaching she had learned something too, that the galaxy was ready for change, ready to learn that there were better ways to train soldiers, better ways to think about combat, better ways to be strong. 4 weeks later, Katie stood in her commanding officer's office on Earth, giving her full report. The galactic species respect strength, Katie said, but they have a narrow definition of what strength means. They think it is physical power, aggressive dominance, the ability to intimidate. They do not understand that human strength comes from adaptability, intelligence, cooperation, and determination. And now they are learning, Hayes said. Some of them, Katie agreed. The ones willing to question what they have always believed. Those are the ones who will change things. Hayes pulled up a document on her screen. The Galactic Military Academy wants you to head their new Human Tactics Division. Train instructors who will then train soldiers across multiple species. It is a 5-year assignment, maybe longer. Are you interested? Katie thought about Morgan's Pack. About students learning to think instead of just fight. About Zira helping others. Rack showing mercy. Krek using his strength to protect instead of intimidate.